Hello,
everybody. Welcome to today's session. We're really excited to be doing these every day. It's so great to be back to doing this, isn't it? When we used to do this all of the time, and we haven't done it for a while. So it's really great to be back to doing it. Today, as you can see, we're talking about AI for neurodiversity. It's something that when we do workshops in lots of different locations and lots of different organizations, it's something that we get asked about quite a lot, about the use of AI. So we thought, why not do a little session on it? So yeah, we're here today, and thank you for being here to join us to talk about AI.
And neurodiversity. And is it a help or a hindrance?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's find out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So welcome. We're Remarkable Minds. I'm Vanessa.
I'm Becky.
Just in case you don't know. So I think AI is really emerging at the moment, isn't it? And it has actually drastically changed in the last few years. And it is becoming a powerful tool. And there are many ways that it can actually support neurodivergent individuals to find greater success in the workplace. But is it truly helping neurodivergent professionals thrive? Or is it just making us look more neurotypical without really driving the change that's needed in the workplace? Interesting question, huh?
Yeah, really interesting question. And I think sometimes when we talk about this, we can have quite different views about it, because I come from it from very much the neurotypical perspective, which can be a little bit different than the neurodivergent perspective. So we're going to just talk a little bit about how AI is supporting neurodiverse professionals now, and sort of get into some things that you can do and some ways that we can use it, and then explore what that really means in workplaces.
Absolutely.
Right now. So only a few years ago, as we all know, AI was really not something that we all had in our lives, was it? It wasn't something that we were talking about, even up to I would say 2 years ago, when it started to really be something that people were talking about. And I remember when someone first said to me about using AI, I was like, no way, no way, It was mainly rule-based and rigid, and actually it was really only used in those tech-heavy environments that were not really our world. It didn't really have a real-world application. But now, obviously, things have changed. As with most technologies, things really change. And I would say for AI particularly, it's changed really, really quickly.
Yeah, it has changed very rapidly.
Yeah, it's become something that, most people didn't have access to being something that everybody has access to now. It's everywhere, isn't it? You almost can't get away from it. Today, it really is more context aware. And it's integrated to the everyday tools that we use. So I know when I'm using Gmail, there's a little button asking me if I want it to make my words better, or lots of different contexts. There is the capacity. Even like we use a tool called Loom to record videos. Even that has an AI capacity now. Does it want to make it better? Do I want to use it to improve what I'm saying? It really is used for everything, isn't it? From emails to project management and everywhere in between.
Yeah. So, but AI isn't just about convenience. It really can help bridge that gap between traditional work expectations and the way that a neurodivergent individual's minds work. It can be a really powerful tool for neurodiverse individuals, and professionals. And the thing is, AI can reduce the cognitive load. It can be used to automate repetitive or help you break down overwhelming tasks. It does support executive function. AI tools can help to provide structure and reminders and help with organization. And it can support alternative communication styles. It really can be used to help neurodiverse individuals express their thoughts more clearly, or, structure emails in a better way. And as you've said, we use Gmail, and there's always that little, I think it's called Gemini, or I don't actually know what it's called, but it's like, can I help you rewrite this? Yeah,
absolutely.
So there are ways that you can use AI to support neurodiverse individuals, and for neurodiverse professionals themselves, it can really help them.
Absolutely. So, AI really helps a lot with the executive function challenges that come along with neurodiversity. And I don't know about you, but for quite a while, I heard that term executive function challenges before I was doing this work. And I was like, what does that actually mean? What is executive function challenges? Executive functions challenges are actually just a really broad term that covers these areas that are in this circle here. So we've got focusing, hindsight and foresight, time awareness, initiation, working memory, and emotion and impulse control. So those are some of the big things that come under that heading of executive function challenges. And in workplace environments, so many of these struggles are ones that are really highlighted. The ones that we're really expected to be good at, expected to be able to do when we're an employed adult, right? When we've got a job and we're working, there's just a sort of a standard expectation that you'll be okay at doing these things. And that isn't the experience of pretty much every neurodiverse person that we've worked with. And experiencing challenges with these sort of basic areas that people think of as being simple often means that you end up feeling like you can't do the same things as everyone else can with ease, and that does have an impact on the individual, doesn't it?
Hugely. I always used to joke that I felt like everybody else had the manual for being an adult, and mine had like chapters missing because, working memory, time awareness, hindsight and foresight. These were all things that I really struggled with, And I think the thing is, as an adult, because we look the same, you don't know by looking at someone whether they're neurodivergent or not, not being able to do these executive function, areas kind of makes you feel like you're not as capable. And often we're working so hard to try and to appear capable, and we're working so much harder to achieve these areas that for everybody else just feels really simple, actually, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday in our session, didn't we? About how for some people things just feel really, really simple, but other people, when you're neurodiverse specifically, are having to work so much harder to just keep up to that basic standard, which means it's often why a lot of neurodiverse people don't go further, don't progress their careers, don't take the next step, because they feel like they're just about managing where they are. But if they can use AI to help them with some of these executive function challenges, then that can change, right? They can go further, they can do more, they can achieve more and have a different experience in the workplace. So that's a real positive.
Absolutely. So let's look at a couple of areas where AI can be used to support neurodivergent professionals to be able to help them and, really allow them to shine in the workplace. One of the biggest areas of challenge with the clients that we work with is around time management and prioritization. I cannot tell you the number of clients that come to us wanting help with this, and the number of organizations that come to us and want us to be able to provide solutions in this area. And the thing is, traditional methods of organization and project management and time management really are just not as effective and don't actually work for the neurodiverse brain. The difficulty of knowing what is the most important task, of understanding where to begin a task, and then having an accurate awareness of how long that task or project is actually going to take is something that so many neurodivergent professionals really struggle with.
They really do. And we talked about that a bit in our session on Monday, didn't we? We were talking about women and burnout, how traditional time management solutions don't work for the neurodiverse brain. So we need to think about things in a different way. We need to maybe use some AI to help us. There are some great apps out there that are really, really useful, because the overwhelming challenges of organization and time management really this is one area that can really be helped with the use of AI. There are all these tools. That Notion AI is really amazing. Todoist AI, and both of those can break down big projects into smaller steps so that you don't have to work out where to start. You don't have to work out what the next step is. You can get AI to do that for you. Motion AI can help you automate scheduling based on priorities and deadlines. There are all sorts of technologies out there that you can just even I think ChatGPT can do this. You put your to-do list into it, and then it will tell you what things you need to do first, what's the most important thing, and how long it's going to take you. So, you know, that is really, really helpful that for people that are really struggling in that area, you know, because breaking tasks or big projects into steps is a real massive help for the neurodiverse brain that can often see that big picture view. Because when you can see all the tasks that need to be done and they all seem just as important to each other, it's really difficult to pick that starting point, isn't it? You just don't know where to get started. So using AI to help you with that is really going to make a positive change in your life.
Yeah, it really is. And I think traditionally we tend to think of the challenge of focus as being particularly associated with ADHD. But in reality, actually anybody who is neurodiverse will most likely consistently struggle with focus, you know, and sometimes it's about distraction and sometimes it's hyperfocus. Both of them are challenges though, and it's easy to get distracted or put your attention in the wrong place. You know, you can end up doing hours of work only to realize that the task that you really needed to do was actually a completely different one from the one that you've ended up spending all this hyper focus on. And you can end up feeling like you've wasted the day, or then you've realized that you're actually going to have to work much longer because you've been working on the wrong thing. So it's really helpful that there are some apps now that can actually help us with focus and attention, you know, and it can really support you to enable you to stay on the right task. So we would encourage you to try some different ones. There's ones called Brain FM, Cognitivity, you know, they provide background sounds that can actually enhance your focus. Because most neurodiverse individuals, we talk about this in our training, have a wider sphere of kind of perception. So they are more aware of sounds and lights and all sorts of different things with a much wider sphere than a neurotypical. So just providing, you know, being able to cut out that sound can really help. And then freedom and rescue time, you know, they help limit distractions by blocking non-work related sites. You know, I think little things like that can really support people to stay, keep their focus on what they're doing.
What they need to be doing, absolutely. And we all know that another area of real challenge for neurodiverse professionals is communication. And we're doing actually a free 30-minute session on this one on LinkedIn tomorrow. So come along and join us for that. We're going to be sharing lots of great tips and techniques to support better communication when you're neurodiverse. But apps and AI can help you with this, right? They can help with creating structure when you're doing written communication, you know, or if you're feeling uncomfortable writing because of your spelling and your grammar challenges. Being able to get your amazing vision and what you can see in your mind onto paper is something that is really challenging for neurodiverse adults. So if we can use AI to help us with that, why not? You know, if you can use Grammarly and ChatGPT to rewrite emails for you, and I bet most people are already doing that. I know that a lot of people do. And Otter AI is something that we use all the time in our business to record meetings or record conversations so that we've got a record of them, and then you can get a transcript of them afterwards. And Firefly's AI that also provides that real-time transcription. And then they, you know, pop out a little sort of a document, a summary document, isn't it, about what you then need to do after that conversation. So then you're not missing anything, you know, and that's really, really helpful for people.
Yeah. And so just going back to ChatGPT and Grammarly, you know, I know for me, I'll often ask Becky to kind of, you know, I'll say, I'm trying to say this, and you actually help with the words. And that's where these type of AI tools can be really valuable, right? It's saving Becky's time. She doesn't have to be that one for me to go, oh, I'm trying to say this. And similarly for Fireflies and Otter, I know that in a meeting, I don't have to take up that mental activity trying to remember what I'm going to do, or trying to remember, you know, maybe what it is that I've promised to do to deliver to somebody. I can use these tools to know that afterwards I can go back and I can search through the transcript by name or by keywords. So it really removes the shame of having to ask in a meeting or after a meeting clarifying questions. You know, we just did a presentation, a 3-hour workshop, and someone in that said, oh, that's so me. I often then have to ask afterwards, what was it we're supposed to be doing? So, you know, these AI tools kind of remove the shame of that. So they can be really valuable.
They can,
you know?
Yeah. And I'm sure lots of you are already using them, and lots of workplaces are definitely leaning into using them.
Yeah.
And AI really does have a role to play in workplaces today. And I think, you know, I was watching a thing about AI in education the other day when they were talking about we can't get away from it. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
We have to just change the way that we're engaging with it and the way that we expect students. They likened it actually to the calculator.
Oh, yeah.
Like before the calculator, maths was taught in a certain way. And then there was the advent of the calendar. And it's like, okay, now we have to teach maths in a different way. What did I say? Did I say?
It doesn't matter, sorry.
Calculator. And we have to teach maths in a different way.
Absolutely.
So it's just the same sort of thing, isn't it? So we have to sort of really understand the role that AI has to play in our workplaces. And it really can help neurodivergent professionals appear more organized and more polished, which is a real positive. But AI definitely has its limits.
Yeah.
There are things that it cannot fix. And the thing that we really wanted to talk about that it cannot fix is the way that neurodiversity is viewed in workplaces. You know,
and the way that it's experienced by neurodiverse individuals. You know, often as a neurodivergent adult, you know, there's an ingrained belief. And, you know, AI isn't going to change my belief.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into this. But perhaps with the use of AI over time, future generations of neurodivergent adults will feel more accepted and equal in the workplace because they won't have had the challenges so much around communication and time management. But as I've said, you know, just because I can now write a better email, it doesn't mean that it's helped me with my self-confidence or my self-belief or understanding my own neurodivergent talents. You know, and we always say it is essential to do the internal work before you start using the external tools. And that does apply to AI as well, because using AI to just mask your challenges might help you produce that work, but it isn't going to support you in understanding the way that your brain works and really knowing what your own natural talents are. And you'll still feel different, you know, even if your output is the same as everybody else.
Absolutely. So, you know, we love to share a story. We're just going to tell you about an amazing ADHD guy and dyslexic guy that we worked with not that long ago. And his name was Simon. And he was really, really struggling in his workplace. You know, he found that doing emails, taking notes in meetings, being able to, all of those things, those executive function challenges, prioritization, they were really, really challenging for him. And he constantly felt like he was failing at work. He couldn't do as well as other people. And then, you know, Simon's workplace really, really wanted to support him and really wanted to create a better environment for him. And so they really took some proactive action and offered him the opportunity to use some AI solutions. And he was really, really happy about that. He was really happy to embrace those AI solutions to help him with some of those repetitive things and the things that were causing him a lot of stress and anxiety. And he really embraced that use of AI and integrated it into his life. And these tools helped him to send, you know, clearer emails and prioritize his tasks, stay on top of his meeting notes, all of that kind of stuff that you would expect. But his neurodiversity didn't just disappear because he was using AI. You know, sure, he was managing some of the challenges better. He was producing work in a more neurotypical way, but it definitely didn't solve all of the problems that he was experiencing at work because his manager still thought of him as disorganized. He still thought that he didn't contribute as much as other people did because quite often he couldn't articulate his thoughts. He couldn't get them out. It took him a little bit longer to process and respond to information because that's just the way that his neurodiverse brain worked, right? So whilst AI did improve how his work looked, it didn't actually change how he was perceived by himself or by his manager. So AI tools are great and they do have a place. But real inclusion work really does require workplace workplace education, personal work on your internal world. And actually, the most important thing is culture change.
Yeah.
You know, just providing tools without changing people's opinions and perceptions of what neurodiversity is not going to be the most inclusive way to be.
And it's a fine line, you know, as a neurodiverse adult, I can see how using and accepting AI into the workplace can be game changing, you know, but I know I resisted to start using ChatGPT. You know, to begin with, I was like, oh no, I don't want to use that. But now I have learned how to use it to help me get my thoughts organized into a structure and that others can understand. And as I've said, you know, maybe before another team member would have had to help me with that. So using AI in that instance is a great tool. But I'm only able to make the most of AI because of my awareness, my knowledge, and my expertise around neurodiversity. And because I am confident, you know, in my talents and skills and my weaknesses, and I'm okay with my weaknesses, I've integrated AI into my working life, and I'm okay about it, you know, because we have an accepting culture here in Remarkable Minds.
We do actually, we do. Yeah, you know, because when you can use those tools to support you, right, with those challenges, you can still feel good about yourself.
Absolutely, you know, and I free myself up by reducing that cognitive load. It frees my mind up to tap into those natural creative strengths and talents that naturally come along with being neurodivergent. You know, we often talk about finding your remarkable, and this is the best case, right? Having a confident neurodivergent employee that has access to the right tools, and this is a really key point, is in an inclusive culture that values their talents, then that's the sweet spot. You know, I think it's really interesting to think about AI because AI cannot replace the creativity. It cannot replace the out-of-the-box thinking, the big picture problem-solving skills, the empathy and intuition that naturally come along with a neurodivergent thinking style.
Absolutely.
And we aren't the only ones that think this.
Hopefully we've got a little video and hopefully it's going to play. Let's see. We've never tried this before, so let's have a go.
Yeah.
Well, I started an airline.
So that was a great video, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, made by Dyslexia. So that one was specifically talking about dyslexia. However, I would say it is also true of any neurodivergence. So yes, providing the technology to help neurodivergent employees can be very effectively. But how do we use AI effectively without allowing it to replace meaningful neurodiversity inclusion? You know, and I think that's the thing. AI is a tool, but it is not a replacement for real DEI and inclusion efforts. So yes, using AI will enable your neurodivergent employees to operate in that more neurotypical way, but it will not help them understand their challenges. It will not help them understand their talents. It will not help them with their lack of self-confidence, or to help in other areas such as behavior and anxiety and emotional regulation, just to name a few.
Absolutely. So we really don't want to see people using AI as kind of a fix-it-all for neurodivergency in organizations. You know, really think of it as a tool, not a solution. Making AI available to everyone can benefit everybody, but it is not a fix-it-all situation. You know, we've worked with lots of organizations, and many of them are looking to create real change within their organizations, that cultural change that we've been talking about. But there are some out there that are looking for those quick fix solutions that are going to make neurodivergent individuals work in a more neurotypical way as quickly as possible. And we really want you to know that AI is not that quick fix. Yes, AI can be very helpful. It can support the neurodiverse individuals in your organization to find greater success. It can reduce their stress and help them produce better outcomes, you know, output. But we really need to be sure that we're using it in an appropriate way. Using it as a tool, not a final solution. There really is no replacement for real inclusion work, for that real, true cultural change.
So if today's session has resonated with you, then please follow us, you know, for more insights on neurodivergent and workplace success. You know, we come in and we can do coaching and training. So here are a couple of final thoughts about AI. So it can reduce the cognitive load and support executive function. It does help neurodivergent professionals communicate more effectively. AI does not change workplace bias or unconscious bias, or it's not a replacement for that inclusive culture. So it's a tool, not a solution.
Absolutely. That's what we think. Let us know what you think. What do you think about AI? You know? So thank you so much for being here today. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to come to any of our sessions this week. It's been great to be here. And, you know, we'd love to hear your thoughts about AI and what, you know, do you use it? Is it something that helps you? Are you neurodivergent and you found it amazing? Or is it more of another thing to think about using? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
So tomorrow we are talking about communication. So we're looking forward to that session. And please, if these sessions have been valuable, please share them with your employee-led networks or anybody who you think could benefit from hearing more about neurodiversity.
Absolutely. So thanks for being here, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.